sounds terrifying. Bomb cyclone. It's also called bombogenesis.
A massive winter storm called a bomb cyclone threatens to slam millions in the east starting tonight.
The Weather Channel's Greg Postel says it's gonna be epic. What the heck is a bomb cyclone?
Well, it refers to a low-pressure system that develops very quickly at a certain rate. And this one actually exceeds that threshold by a lot. We're likely to see blizzard conditions across parts of the Northeast, and I do believe we'll see some snowfall totals in excess of a foot and perhaps wind gusts over 60 miles per hour.
How crazy is the weather? It actually snowed in Florida this morning.
People here in Florida are just out of their minds.
Candace Campos is a meteorologist with WKMG TV in Orlando.
We haven't seen measurable snow in Tallahassee in over 30 years. So you can imagine everyone was walking out with their flip-flops. They turned around and they were just adding all the layers.
Check out this car entombed in ice in Baltimore following a water main break. And imagine being on this ship in Minnesota. Look at those massive icicles.
That is amazing.
I'm Jason Samenow with the Capital Weather Gang, here with an update on the major ocean storm working up the eastern seaboard. We're calling this storm a bomb cyclone. This is a meteorological term which explains a storm that is rapidly strengthening as it moves up the east coast. Now, this storm has already brought ice and snow to places unaccustomed to it in northern Florida and southeast Georgia, as well as up to around Charleston, South Carolina, where they've seen snow accumulating on the ground. Now, this storm is expected to rapidly move up the coast Wednesday night into Thursday. A blizzard warning is in effect for the Tidewater of Virginia, where up to a foot of snow and winds up to 50 miles per hour could create whiteout conditions. And then further north up to around New York City and Long Island, 3 to 6 inches of snow possible there with strong winds. By the time you get up to Boston, a foot of snow or more is possible there with wind gusts over 50 miles per hour. In places like Cape Cod, eastern Massachusetts, some 60 to 70 mile per hour gusts are possible there, along with high seas and coastal flooding. Now, as you head a little bit farther west along the Interstate 95 corridor in the mid-Atlantic around Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, those areas are going to be just on the western edge of the storm, so probably won't see a lot of snow, maybe an inch or so. Again, the main impacts right along the beaches from basically the Tidewater of Virginia up the coast to eastern Massachusetts and eastern Maine. Now, in this storm's wake, we are talking about a punishing blast of frigid air piling in from New England down toward the mid-Atlantic. Wind chills by Friday morning below zero everywhere. High temperatures on both Friday and Saturday near record low levels. And then finally, we do see some more mild weather coming towards the East Coast early next week.
Winter can be a wonderland. It can also be wicked. And this week's freezing temperatures are no joke. Mother Nature has iced out much of the country with results both beautiful and scary. Parts of Niagara Falls are freezing. So are fountains in southern cities. While some might be basking in its beauty, firefighters have been battling against it from New York.
We're really concerned about the safety thing. We just had sanitation come here and start sanding and salting the area because the slips and falls could be very dangerous.
To Massachusetts, where first responders were covered in ice.
The water freezes on our equipment, on our air packs, on our masks.
And watch as this police officer narrowly escapes being hit by a car after slipping on an icy road. That was a little too close. People are advised to bundle up and stay safe because the mercury isn't going to rise until next week.
Hell on the highway.
Whoa, whoa, right in front of us, down in the ditch.
It's a massive 40-car pileup.
Whoa, here's another one whoa, another one going in.
And the crashes keep on coming.
Whoa, into that truck. Oh my God.
One after another.
Look at them coming in. Cars coming in. Boom, boom.
It was like insane, just totally insane.
Sue and Jim Perot found themselves trapped in their pickup on US 31 near Muskegon, Michigan, when they captured the drama on their cell phone.
All I could see is the cars coming in, just crashing one after another.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Oh,
okay.
Somebody's gonna get, oh my God.
Okay, thank you.
They gotta shut this highway down.
They recorded everything Even their own pickup truck getting rammed.
Here goes another one, big truck. Oh, Christ.
How many times was your truck hit?
We were hit 3 times. There comes another one. Now there was a car up against my bumper, and somebody just took out that car.
There's another one.
There's another one.
I was watching the cars coming from our rearview mirror up behind us. So I was able to say, hang on, here comes another one. Hang on.
Hang on.
Hang on, baby.
Uh-oh, he's got us. No, he's over on the other side.
Jim does his best to warn the other drivers.
Don't get out of your car, man. There's people plowing into everybody out here.
I'm wondering if you guys did the smart thing by staying in your truck.
Staying in the vehicle is the safest thing to do because it's the only protection you have.
And this drone video was shot in another part of Michigan. A terrifying pileup involving 30 vehicles. Scary scenes in this brutal cold spell.
Whoa, another one going in!
Winds of up to 100 miles per hour are causing havoc across the UK. In the early hours on January 3rd, Storm Eleanor started to rip through England, Ireland, and Wales, uprooting trees, tearing off roofs, and bringing transportation to a halt. The Guardian reports at least 4 people are injured. Around 55,000 houses and businesses have been left without power in Ireland, and the Thames barrier has closed to protect London from flooding. The flooding could not be stopped, however, in coastal towns such as Cornwall, where the high tides breached the seawall and water rolled into the streets. According to the UK's National Weather Service, the winds are starting to ease around the country, but weather warnings will remain active until the end of the day. Meanwhile, Storm Eleanor is also causing damage and disruption in Switzerland, Germany, and France. For United News International, I'm Matt Walker.
Tropical depression Agaton has killed at least 2 and displaced thousands since making landfall Tuesday in the central Philippines. Both deaths occurred in Malabuyok in southern Cebu province. A 64-year-old woman died when a landslide hit her home, and a 39-year-old man died after jumping through a window in panic. Agaton's heavy winds and rains caused landslides and floods in many Philippine provinces. The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council said over 4,000 families have been evacuated. Agaton comes after 2 major tropical storms hit the country in December. Tropical Storm Urduha, known internationally as Kaitak, hit the Visayas, and Tropical Storm Vinta, also known as Tembin, struck Mindanao. Together, the December storms killed nearly 300. About 20 major storms hit the Philippines each year. For United News International in Metro Manila, I'm Crystal Ya.
Even with all the modern technologies of the present day, holograms still feel a bit magical. 3-dimensional objects appear to be right next to us, and they look just like the real thing. But really, they're just light scattered from the real object, recorded, and then projected. Holography dates back to 1947, when scientist Denis Gabor developed the concept. To move forward, he had to wait for inventions like lasers, so he called it an experiment in serendipity that began too soon. But soon, everything was about to change. Gabor was right to call it serendipity. His holography theory came as a result of his research in trying to improve the resolution of an electron microscope. But progress stalled over the next decade and a half because there was no source for a pure and consistent beam of light. Finally, in 1960, a breakthrough. The invention of the laser, a source of coherent light from a single source, and just what Gabor and his theory had been waiting for. Just 2 years later, a pair of researchers at the University of Michigan achieved the first laser transmission of physical objects, a toy train and a bird. The science community quickly got to work building equipment for new holography techniques: white light transmission, rainbow holograms, and gelatin for recording. In 1971, Gabor was rewarded for his pioneering work when he received the Nobel Prize in Physics. By then, holograms were beginning to hit the mainstream. An art exhibit in '68, then another. Luxury jeweler Cartier put a hologram in its Fifth Avenue store window in 1973. A prototype for a holographic movie emerged in 1976. Then, in 1983, MasterCard put the first hologram on a credit card for security. The following year, National Geographic put a hologram on its March 1984 issue. and the 3D Eagle wowed millions of readers. Holograms had arrived, and they'd become a part of our everyday lives. Today, holography is used for all sorts of applications. Data storage, security measures, recording of fragile ancient artifacts, some digital cameras, even for creating realistic models for facial surgery. But one popular modern hologram isn't. Know those concerts that bring dead artists like Tupac and Michael Jackson back on stage? They're not actually holograms. They're projections that use an illusion effect called Pepper's Ghost. But the mistake proves the ubiquity of the word hologram and the general concept.
Now, Yemen has suffered its first deadly airstrike of 2018, with more than 20 killed in the key port city of Hodeidah on New Year's Day. 3 of the world's biggest humanitarian agencies have now joined together to highlight that Yemen has passed the grim milestone of enduring more than 1,000 days of war, explaining that 3/4 of the Yemeni population needs humanitarian aid, and also that about 2/3 are deprived of food, water and proper sanitation.
I am poor. I have no tent where I can live. I suffer from the cold. I was given a place to sleep by some people to warm up. On hot days, we sleep right on the sidewalk.
There is no help. Help comes very rarely. Once a year, maybe. But now we have no help. Our blanket is tattered. 15 people are sleeping on it.
"239 people died as a result of road accidents in Thailand over a 4-day period. Thailand's Department of Disaster Prevention released the statistics for December 28th through the 31st. The department said nearly half the cases involved drunk driving, around a quarter were due to speeding, and roughly 80% involved motorcycles. However, the authorities say this is a 14% drop in deaths compared to the same period the previous year. These 4 days were the first of a 7-day watch period in which accidents are expected to rise. During this period, police set up checkpoints throughout the country and issue over 138,000 citations. A 2015 World Health Organization report ranked the country second in the world in road deaths, saying over 24,000 people die on Thai roads every year. For United News International in Metro Manila, I'm Wayne Wayne.
Israeli warplanes have carried out fresh airstrikes against the Gaza Strip after alleged rocket fire from the besieged enclave. The Israeli aircraft conducted at least 4 air raids on agricultural land in the southern province of Rafah. 2 further airstrikes in the same region have damaged at least 1 building. Residents say they have heard a very large explosion in the same area. Tel Aviv claims the raids come after 3 rockets were fired at the occupied Palestinian territories from Gaza. It is the latest in an upsurge of Israeli attacks targeting the besieged enclave since U.S. President Donald Trump escalated tensions by recognizing Jerusalem Al-Quds as Israel's capital.
Let me just stop here for a second and explain this nuclear button. It is not actually a button, it's a process. The president has what's called a nuclear football with him wherever he goes. It's actually a 45-pound locked briefcase carried by one of his military aides. It contains secret information the president uses to form a plan of action if a strike becomes necessary. In order to authorize the strike, the president must verify his identity by giving the Pentagon a unique code on a small card known as the Biscuit. He carries this with him at all times. Once authenticated, the president's orders are transmitted to launch operators who then have to match the orders to sealed authenticators locked in a safe. Once they determine the orders are legitimate, they turn their keys simultaneously, starting the launch sequence. Now, all of this comes as North and South Korea take another huge step towards restoring relations. Both sides spoke directly today for the first time in 2 years, while testing a border hotline that has been dead during that time. The North reactivated the hotline so they could discuss sending a North Korean delegation to the Winter Olympics.
Call it the battle of the nuclear buttons between President Trump and the leader of North Korea. But it's no joke. In his New Year's Day speech, North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un said, "The U.S. should know that the nuclear button is on my desk. The entire U.S. mainland is within our nuclear strike range." President Trump responded on Twitter, "Will someone from his depleted and food-starved regime please inform him that I too have a nuclear button, but it is a much bigger and more powerful one than his, and my button works." President Trump doesn't actually have a physical nuclear button. He has a bag containing what's called the nuclear football, but that didn't stop Trump from teasing Kim. Despite the nuclear threat in his New Year's Day speech, North Korean experts saw important symbolism in the color of Kim's gray suit, indicating the North was softening or wanted something. And sure enough, the North wants to send a delegation to the Winter Olympics in South Korea next month and open a cross-border hotline with South Korea.
North Korea can talk with anyone they want, but the U.S. is not going to recognize it or acknowledge it until they agree to ban the nuclear weapons that they have.
And while President Trump sounded open to the possibility of an inter-Korean dialogue, the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs offered an alarming assessment of the nuclear standoff.
We're actually closer, in my view, to a nuclear war with North Korea and in that region than we've ever been. And I just don't see I don't see the opportunities to solve this diplomatically at this particular point.
And at the same time, another rogue state seeking to become a nuclear power, Iran, is still being rocked by protests. Iranian state media aired footage of pro-government demonstrations in cities across the country after a week of protest over the country's poor economy that have left more than 20 dead.
The UN must speak out. In the days ahead, we will be calling for an emergency session, both here in New York and at the Human Rights Council in Geneva. We must not be silent. The people of Iran are crying out for freedom.
The president has several key domestic issues on his plate in this election year, but both North Korea and Iran could also become dominant concerns for the president and his team. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Did you respond to the North Korea button question? What do you make of the button?
I just hope he doesn't touch it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna pat the heart to the heartbeat. We're gonna shake it up to warm up the heart. We're gonna put it on our forehead, so it's super, super smart. Put on your nose, so it's everything. Put it on your cheek, so it's always happy. Put it on your heart, so I always love you. Now you're gonna close your eyes and make a big wish. That's what happened. Look at me. Are you ready? Give the heart a kiss.
Uh-oh. Gotta be quiet.
I'm scared.
You gotta... Go ahead.
It's from Billboard. We need silence.
I knew it. Got the monkey. But wait up. Hey, wait up. Hold on. There you go. Read that. See that? What's the name of the monkey?
Antonio Jr. Vargas.
Mommy's little monkey.
All right. There you go. Now go ahead and you got to touch the hands one at a time.
That's deep.
You touch the other one, Spot. Here's the little bear I got, Tonio.
Just wanted to speak to Antonio and tell him that Mommy loves him. Give me a big hug.